What's up, fam? Welcome to another episode of L.U.S.T. Let Us Speak Truth. I'm your host, Nick. We got the cast on here, and today's topic is going to be it's easier to raise a strong child than to repair a broken adult. What do y'all think about that?
The thing about it is it's much easier to raise a strong child than a broken adult. We try to captivate the innocence of the youth, and so we get them while they're still young. Someone that's broken until their life experience start tainting their life. In other words,
well, what defines a broken adult?
Someone that cannot find themselves, someone that's just not happy, someone that just is lost.
See, and I would define it that and mistakes that have been made when growing up, some mistakes by parents. So you follow suit, and then people say break generational curses. You know what I mean? So when it's easier to raise a strong child than to repair a broken adult, in my mind, adults are already fixed in their certain ways depending on the age. Children are still children, they're still growing. So they soak up knowledge.
And yeah, that is so true. But you also have to understand what makes a broken adult, as I stated before, is life experiences. You know what I mean? Where a child has not had that adventure yet. So you try to captivate and teach while they're still young and have that pure innocence before they go through life, because life itself would taint a child or a grown or adult.
Correct. Yes, I agree. Y'all got any input on it?
I think that when it comes to children, as parents, we do our best to raise them as strong individuals, and we raise them with morals, values, traditions, integrity. We raise them to be, good individuals. But what happens is, as children, they experience things that are traumatizing, and then when it's time for them to really like in their growing portion of it, when it's time for them to they're not mature enough to handle some traumatizing situations, and then as adults they it becomes the root problem, and then now they're on a couch, talking to a therapist, trying to figure out what's wrong, what happened, and why they operate in the way that they operate. So saying that it's easier to raise a strong child, that's because we're molding our children to adulthood. We're raising them from, in my case, girls to young ladies, young women into women, and then things happen that we have to kind of navigate or try to fix. And as things transpire in their lives, we just don't know how they're going to react to it or respond to it, and it becomes difficult. So then that child growing up, now they have this mentality of, oh, F this, or this happened to me, and why did this happen to me? And it becomes
I think
and it just becomes a negative thing. And then when it's time for them to try to fix it or try to figure out, what's wrong with me, it's like just like you said, it's I don't know necessarily say it's easier to raise a strong child, but it's definitely hard to fix a broken adult, because an adult are set in their ways, and they're trying to navigate things differently, especially if they haven't experienced something.
What are qualities? Go ahead,
to piggyback off of that, what Lolita said, adults have dealt with certain traumas and certain situations through their life expand, so it's kind of, and when they're broken, it's broken because an adult can be, like Lanita says, stuck in their ways.
Right. Yeah. What are 5 qualities of a strong child-parent relationship?
when a child trusts their parent,
Trust.
when a child can communicate with that parent,
Communication.
being open, communicating trust, being safe with the parent. Um,
That's number
and
one.
yeah, being safe with the parent. And I think those would be it, because when a child is not safe, he can't communicate and they can't trust the parent. That's already a root issue for when they become older and then they get into a relationship and then they're wondering, how did I end up in this relationship? Well, because you were introduced to a messed up individual and you had to deal with this messed up individual, and then you carried that energy into a relationship, and then it's not something that you want. But they always say girls get with people, and I don't think it's necessarily true, but they always say girls try to get with guys that mimic their dad, whether if it was a good dad or whether if it was a bad dad. They usually, girls gravitate to somebody who may remind them of their dad. And it really, and with girls with dads in their lives, I think that's huge, because I know growing up, my mom and my dad are still together. So I always would look at qualities that my dad had, and I would try to find those same qualities in a guy that I was dating and make those qualities elude.
See, and what about the ones that didn't have the father figure? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tootie. Oh, no, we can't hear you. Hold on. Unmute you. Okay, there you go.
Okay. Yeah, I was having a whole coughing fit. Sorry about that. I thought I was going to give away a lung or something.
No,
what I was going to say is, like, because my parents were divorcing, and they started breaking up when I was 5. 7, we moved out. 9, they were done, and then they both got remarried. But I think both of my parents became coping mechanisms with me and my brother. And I say that because they were young. My mom was 20 when she had me, 19, and then she turned 20, and so did my dad. But then they got married. They didn't know who they were. And then they got kids that they've added to this pot, and they don't even know how they work together.
Right.
And so I think I became strong because I think my mom made sure that I never, or tried to make sure I never felt like she felt when her and my dad were breaking up. Because I guess that was always her thing for me. But see, she coddled my brother. And for me, she was like, she pushed me out and like, you better go flap your wings if you're going to get off the ground. And she raised us completely different in the same household. So I think for me, my mother tried to make me what she wasn't, but she allowed my brother to be whatever he was going to become. And I didn't get that privilege. So it's more like me as an adult is a different person because I'm very observant and I'm very in tune with my feelings and my emotions. And what I say, I'm broken in certain spaces, absolutely. But again, that's where therapy comes in. I think it takes courage to decide that you can't fix it yourself and you need somebody, a third person that's non-judgmental, to listen to you. And they really don't even offer you information. They just let you get it out your system so you kind of fix yourself, but it's just somebody who's not judging you, listening. I guess that's what the therapy portion of it is. I don't know.
Absolutely.
But absolutely, I think it's easier to raise a strong child, because I wish my mother would have been a person who was like, oh, it doesn't matter what they say. I think she was going through her own thing, and she took what a lot of people had to say, that input, and it influenced her in a lot of ways.
Right.
Because she didn't know what to do, because this is all new territory for everybody. And she felt like she had to be the mama bear, but she wasn't sure how to do it because her parents were still together.
Right.
So,
right.
Like she was just navigating in unfamiliar territory, and I don't know, she didn't know. So we all just kind of
grew together. Yeah. I was one of them.
Now, and a lot of children mimic their parents. I've always said a resilient child is a very empowered child.
Mm-hmm.
So, and when I was younger, my mom and dad, before my mom had passed, they were married 58 years. So I always would look and observe. And they always say, you're not paying attention, Tanya, but yeah, I was.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I became an adult, mom was saying, you were watching all the time. And we didn't realize that you were watching all the time. Yes, that's how I learned how to save. That's how I learned how to date in some ways. Not to say I ain't had no oops or no hiccups. Hell yeah, I have. However,
Right.
I don't stay in a situation because that's not what mom or my dad instilled in any of their children. So we
True.
became resilient and empowered. And you talking about mouths, my sisters, oh my God, they got some mouths on them.
Mm. And see the 5 qualities, because y'all know I do my research. The 5 qualities of a strong child-parent relationship. Number 1 is safety. Number 2 is unconditional love, because nobody will love you like your kids love you. Number 3, mutual respect. Number 4, acceptance. And number 5, flexibility. And truth be told, like my number 1 is mutual respect. Those when an adult is talking to a child like they're an adult and they're cussing at them and saying things to them, that to me, if I hear it in the grocery store, I say something. And I know it's not my business, but I can't handle that because my son is with me who's 11 and don't think that that's okay. And I know
Right.
I've learned to kind of mind my business as I got older because I used to be a firecracker. I ain't gonna lie. But I just cannot stand when adults talk to their children like they're adults, like they're not your homie. They are your kids. You don't sit there and be like, shut the fuck up, or you're an idiot, or you're stupid, or you don't do that to a child. I don't care if they're, even in their teens. You know what I mean? They're still a child. You may look at them like they're an adult, but they're not no damn adult. You know.
And that's usually because, the adult has dealt with some type of trauma in their lives. So what they end up doing is taking it out on the children,
Mm-hmm.
To the point that it they it that they're spilling in or instilling in their child, disrespectful ways. Because kids go to school today. I mean, you can always tell a parent that has been hurt. Because a child comes to school, I mean, when I say cuss like a sailor,
Mm,
cuss like a sailor. And then you ask any of them, can you spell any of the words? No, they become dumbfounded. So then they cuss you out again because they can't spell the words.
right. And I had a situation yesterday with not with my son, but with his best friend. And there's this one kid who is very envious of the child and his father's relationship because his father was murdered. So he always tries to have a kid slap this kid or try to intimidate this kid somehow, some way because of his trauma. Do I think? And Ronell is the type of kid that he's going to have your back. He's going to have his best friend's back. But I tell both of them, you don't hit no child. You don't, well, let me take that back. I did say, if a child hits you first, knock
Knock
them
the
the
hell
hell
out.
out. I did say that. I did. But I mean, it is traumatizing when you see these kids going through something such as that kid's father passing. And so now
Right,
you're just angry at happy relationships, seeing your
right.
friend with his dad and they're doing things that you wish you could have done with your dad. And so he's acting out, you know. It's sad. Whew. Trav, you quiet tonight,
No, I'm actually
observing.
observing, and yet again another woman topic. But I'm going to you ladies. I marvel because not to make light of anything anybody said about your experiences with your parents, but the fucking problem is one thing. In our community, we are the least married. So you're starting out in a situation where the child can't help but be broken. We don't want to conform to the things in relationships, men and women, and you give that to a child. So he's learning whichever way. And most time the children are with their mother. So they're learning that way. And he's being a father on the weekend or whenever he can or whenever he wants to. So the problem is the family structure is broke down. So he or she is not getting that reinforcement. And then boom, they get older and they got all these ideas. And then a lot of parents are like, shit, I'm glad you're older. Well, go do what you got to do, spread your wings. And they like, well, hell, I didn't get raised the way I wanted to. You don't know that until you got to get older. And that's the
Exactly.
problem. I didn't get raised right. And it might not just be monetarily, it could be, that man or woman, particularly a lot of women, I'm working hard so we can be okay. So I might neglect something. And then you
Right.
got a guy that's off. He's just a good time dad. He can't really do discipline from the other side of the curve, nor does he really want to.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem breaks down there. So now you got a broken child. You missed that, and now they're trying to get fixed as an adult, and it affects every part of your life. And that's just the fact.
It does. I agree with you completely. I was talking to a friend of mine, and me and my brothers, we all have the same story about my dad in particular, but even further than that, I never played any kind of sports. I was in any kind of group activities as a kid. I never learned conflict resolution as a child. I didn't learn this shit till I was grown. And trying to learn how to do that as an adult and be effective, baby, that's work.
Yeah.
That's work. Because I was always an individual thing. So I never learned how to work with a team or on a team, or I could work in a group, but I pretty much did it the way I wanted to do it and just put their names on the projects.
Right.
So trying to learn conflict resolution as an adult, that's some work.
Yeah. Go ahead, Trav.
And what Tootie's saying is so real. Like so many people think going to being in athletics or just being in group settings is all about the actual thing you're doing. It's not.
It's not.
Mm-hmm.
Me playing sports from the time I was small allowed me to be around other people, allowed me to understand everything that was done in my house wasn't right because other families did things that I liked as I grew up and I was around them. Now, not that my parents did a good job, but
Right. Right.
even just going to school and being around that teaches you how to interact with people at a young age. You're gonna have people that don't like you. You're gonna have teachers that might not like you, but you still got to go back to that place the next day. So it just lays the foundation. You're
Mm-hmm.
gonna be in a situation where you might have a boss that you don't like, but I know I got to pay my mortgage, or I
Yeah.
know I gotta take care of my kids. So do you let him get in the way? And when you're raised by somebody that's like, you got people that quit jobs because, oh, so and so don't like me. Your kid watches that. You
Mm-hmm.
got men and women. I'm not gonna put it just on women. Men and women that'll start dating, and everything in their life becomes about that person they're dating, and they neglect their kids. And when they break up, they go back to their kids, and they do that cycle over and over. Men and women. So the kids don't ever forget that stuff. So you
Mm-hmm.
just broke up stuff. Like the worst thing ever, y'all, for me, is that thing they always talk about, the New York, the little boy that sits on the brownstone and waits for his dad to come, and he never comes. And then he
Yeah.
gets older and he hates his dad. And he's like, man, what were you doing? And it's no explanation you can give a child for that. So
They're
what I'm
not
saying,
showing up.
there's no there's nothing you can say to that him or her
Yeah.
why you didn't show up. It's nothing. So that shapes their relationship. So that's why the little boys and little girls gravitate to their mom, because most time they're with their mom and their mom always showed up. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? That's the problem. So I'm just using that as why you see so many kids.
Let me
And
ask
you
you this. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, you go
But
ahead.
that is one example that is really good. But what are some other examples that why don't men like really push themselves more to be involved with their kids?
The guys I know do, But let me say this, and this just being 100. A
Uh-huh.
lot of dudes, when they threw with the mom and they ain't getting their panties no more, they threw with all of it. And that's just a lot. That's just 100. Like if you cut that off, then a lot of guys just don't divorce you. They divorce the kids too. They don't
Yeah,
care.
that's true.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And listen, you know I'm an advocate for men. So when I say this, but
Yeah.
I'm an advocate for men being men. Take care of your goddamn kids off the rip.
Right.
I, they don't care how many hours you work today. If they got a soccer game Saturday, get your ass up and go. It ain't but an hour. It ain't but an hour.
Right.
But I'm gonna tell you what guys do, and this is something that really bothers me. That goes on to that thing that I'm talking about with your kid.
Mhm.
When you have a child and they want that, so they're not broke to raise a strong child, and you go get a girlfriend and you pour into her kids. You
Mm.
don't think your kids see that? They
Right.
do.
And
Yeah.
where the trauma starts.
Yeah.
That's where your own kids start developing, acting
Now
out.
now your daughter is saying, "What's up?" Now your son is saying, "Wait a minute, hold on." One of my contractors, we were talking. He said, "Man, I ain't seen my son in 3 years."
Mhm.
I'm like, "What the fuck you doing standing here with me?"
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
I look at it differently. I don't care
What
if
was
they.
his reason?
He said, "Oh, the mom has poisoned him," and you know what? Women, it's a lot of women that have done that. But for me, even if you don't want to talk to me, I'm going to call you every day. I don't care about you calling me. I'm gonna do my part. Till one day it's gonna stick and you be like, I'm gonna call him. I'm gonna keep going. I don't like it. You know, even in my case, like since the divorce, my baby girl,
Mhm.
um, her nickname's Kit Kat. And my baby girl, like, since she ain't been around me within the last 3 years of the divorce and separation, she kind of dry towards me. And that bothers me. So like I'm going at it 100-fold. Like I'm not gonna stop ever. She gonna have to tell me, "Daddy, get the hell on," and that's the only way I'm gonna turn around. I still ain't gonna turn around. So I get that, but those years right there are critical. But I mean, marriage is changed in our society. The way we do things has changed.
I agree.
Those kids, man, like
Stop holding the kids accountable for bullshit that you're going through.
yeah.
But
I
see,
don't care what your situation is.
But
You
when you
just
hurt though, when you hurting and you want answers, it's tough. You know what I'm saying? People use the children as pawns, and we
yeah,
look at our own personal experiences.
yeah.
When they're young, man, like you can mess their minds up. It'll take years for them to get back if they ever come back.
Mm-hmm.
They think that stuff is right. You
Mm.
know,
so here's a question that, because even though you can, I mean, it may be easier to raise uh, to help a child to become strong. What about that child that's in the midst of divorce with those parents?
that's a tough place. That's a tough place,
How
Tanya.
do
That's
you,
where I think
yeah,
where the trauma comes in because they don't know they love both their parents, and then you got the parents doing this to each other, and they hear it. I personally experienced this myself with my
Me
ex-husband,
too.
That's a
yeah,
tough.
and
yeah, I
Yeah,
did too.
it was
I
rough.
think
It was
I think
rough, but at
with
the end of the day, hold on, Lenita. At the
go
end of
ahead.
the day, it took close to 4 years for us to be on one accord, me and my ex with our son. 4 years, but we're on it now. And Ronell, I've not, I've seen him the happiest I've seen him because now he has his dad. Now he has his mom. He goes to his dad's house every other weekend, and then his dad can come over and get him anytime. I don't I don't hold nothing, but I've always been that parent to for I kind of forced it in the beginning. No, you're going to your dad's, it's his weekend, you know.
Right.
And he was trying to tell me stop forcing him. But in my mind, I was looking at him like, no, I'm not letting you loose off this. We went half on this. We went
Right.
half on this baby. So you don't get, I'm not taking your weekends. Like you still got to raise him. But I didn't understand that until later, because my son was very unhappy going over there. And then as time went by, when he wanted to go, it was a whole different space. It was a whole different feeling, and he's happy now. And so I learned from that because number one, I've never been in a situation really like this because that was my first and only marriage. But go ahead, Lenita. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I think I was I- when a relationship breaks down and we have the children are involved, I think the first thing that is traumatizing for the child is feeling like they have to choose. Like
Yeah.
before they had two parents that they didn't have to choose between. They knew they can go to both of them. And then when that relationship breaks down, that child feels like they have to choose. Like, well, am I going to live with mom? Am I going to live with dad? Well, mom's taking care of me, dad,
Yeah.
I think that's the first thing that a child experiences when something breaks down. And that's the first thing that's the traumatizing part is making a child. It's sad when a child has to be put in a situation where they're making an adult decision.
Absolutely.
And and especially an adult emotional decision, because regardless of what happens between the parents, there should always be two parents standing. You made the child together.
Yeah.
There always should be the two parents standing in unity for that child. Now
Absolutely.
that's the ideal way it should be. I've experienced it and then it went away, but the thing is that's ideal. And then when you do have that and then that breaks down twice for that child, then that child is like reevaluating their whole life. Like, okay, well, and then that's where the respect comes and that's where the values come. And then you have to reinforce it over and over and over again, not just something that you got to touch on here and there. No, that's a continuous reinforcement. But what I was going to ask earlier was, I can't remember who brought it up, but we were talking about an older adult and how we're talking about ideal situations where the parents are really, one parent is really there for for that child.
Mm-hmm.
But what we haven't touched on is when you actually have a toxic, just like you said, Nicole, when we have a toxic parent that is bleeding negativity into a child, that's literally doing everything and anything to tear a child down. And then you wonder why this child is walking around moping, damn near on antidepressants and going to therapy because you have a parent or step parent or bonus mom or bonus dad or whatever that is feeding the child literal shit. And they're talking to this child, no, I'm not going to do this. F you, or I'm
They're,
not, get
they're
the F
talking to
out.
them. They're talking to them like an adult, like they're a
Right.
nigga or a chick on the street.
That, and then if a child sees that you have more respect for people outside or the person that you're in a relationship with than you have for your own children or you have for that own child, that's not only traumatizing, that's devastating for a child. And that child literally, and I'm saying child, I'm not just talking about a kid. I'm not talking about a 5-year-old, 10-year-old. I'm talking about
I would say the age is under 21.
21.
You're not
Yes.
an adult until you're 21, in my mind.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah. Go ahead, Trav. Absolutely.
I got a question for Tootie. Tootie said that her parents split up, and she was talking about like how she felt growing up. And my question is, how were you? Did your father and mother shove your step parents down your throat, or did they come and talk to y'all about
Oh, that's a great story. So my dad's wife now was his girlfriend,
it?
and he didn't tell her about me. My mom told her about me when she confirmed he was cheating.
Okay.
Okay. So I met my stepmother because she was at my grandmother's house, who lived 2 houses over from my dad. Okay. And they introduced my stepmother to me as my grandmother's friend.
Okay.
She was my dad's girlfriend.
Oh, that's a hoe.
Oh, wow.
So my stepfather, I've known him all my life. And I knew that him and my mama was like trying to talk or whatever. Now, my dad and my stepmom, when they got married, they planned it. They had a full wedding. My brother and I were both in it. So I knew that they were getting married. And I love my stepmama still, no matter what she's done. I love her.
Mm-hmm.
My stepfather, I absolutely love him too. But the thing that my mom did, and this is to show she was bitter. She was pissed off. She was still mad. And my mom has always been a person who felt like she had to have a secret or whatever for the element of surprise. And so me and my brother went to my dad's house for a weekend, and when we came back, my mom and my stepdad were married. They planned it. They got married at our house, and we were not invited.
Wow.
Holy moly.
That's
Okay.
crazy.
So you more than answered my question. The reason I said that was I wanted to know the story because I think a lot of times when the kids live in a when the finances are okay, the family is okay, the events are okay, like they're happy and content in their lives. I think when you pull the rug off from underneath the children at that point, back to what we were talking about, trying to raise a strong child, and you break that up, I think for most people, I would say 80% of kids, it's a devastating situation. Like a lot of times they never recover from that.
And
So
it is because they didn't talk to us about my parents. They did not talk to us about divorce at all.
that's what I'm
It
saying.
was just like we knew they weren't together. We knew they had other people, and that was all it was going to be. But nobody ever came to us. They didn't come together to us and say, "Okay, this ain't working between me and your mama. This ain't working between me and your daddy." They didn't do none of that. We just knew we moved from my dad's house to my grandparents' house. From my grandparents' house, my mama got an apartment.
So how do you rip that? You want them to be strong. You want them to be okay. You want them to have a great life. When you rip that carpet, you got to be prepared for whatever comes with that. And I hear that a lot of people don't understand, and not the part of the adults that's going through the divorce. What about, like we said, raising a strong child so they
Mhm.
aren't broken, but you just broke up their life. So how do you expect the results to come out good? That's my
My
only
mom's thing was always she needed to be chosen. And I've had to, I'm telling you, therapy is the
chosen
shit that
by
makes me
who?
make things make sense.
Chosen
Me and
by
my
who?
brother. My brother and I.
Y'all needed to choose her.
Over the
Yeah.
stepmom.
No, oh, even over my dad.
Oh
My
wow.
mom grew up feeling like the outcast of her siblings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so she needed people who would choose her. So me and my brother, it was like she needed for us to choose her. She loved us. She did the best she could with what she had. I'm not saying that she didn't, but in the same space, it was like my mother, everybody learned how to function in my mama's house in her comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like we all knew what to do, what not to do to keep my mama comfortable, because it's like the worst thing in the world you could do was kind of like piss her off. And at least for me, because she was way harder on me than she was on my brother.
What?
And that's being
Right.
honest.
Tootie,
Um,
not to cut you off, but that's what I always talk about when I talk to women. What you just said, that's that mama though shit. It don't matter what I'm doing wrong or how I come across. Not to talk anything disrespectful about your mother. It don't matter what I do or how I come across. And in the South, that's a big thing. But that's mama though. Whatever,
well,
whatever. I'm gonna do what I
no, but
want to do.
I mean, it took me to go through a lot of things to see clearer. Like I deal with everybody a whole lot differently than I used to. This whole eye situation has softened me in some places and hardened me in others. Um, this is truly like a life changing situation for me. So it's like the monster that my dad was. I understand why he was the way he was in some places. In other places, I just acknowledge he's just selfish. My mom, I acknowledge who she is and the shit that she could have done differently too. So it's like neither one of them were perfect. They were both functioning what they knew to function in, but they both had their own motives. Does that make sense?
Right. Right. Right.
Um, and so even if it's just to be the chosen one, even if it's just to gloat and be something amazing in front of everybody else. They
Right.
were just what they knew how to be. They loved us, and they loved us the way that they knew how to love us. But they were two people who both still had married parents. So divorce wasn't a thing in the families. It just wasn't.
Right.
So neither one of them knew how to work in it. And so you could be pissed off about what they didn't teach you, but shit, they couldn't teach you what they didn't know. They never been through it. They didn't know what it looked like.
Right. I agree with that.
So it's an awareness that I have now of them going through their own things, not knowing what to do with it, versus them just being like, oh well, fuck it. They'll get it figured out. They kids, they'll bounce back. Well, no, we don't.
Right.
And
We don't. Yeah.
at some point, you
Never.
have to take your own initiative to be like, okay, this is the things in my life that I do not want. You put those things on your paper and you start working to erase them. Like, and that's what I do now. Like, it's a matter of my mind. Like, I deserve to not feel the way that I feel when it comes to dealing with my parents, and I'm making it a priority for my happiness. Joy is important to me. Damn it, I'm gonna get me some.
Right. Let
Some
me ask y'all
parents,
this. Let me ask y'all this. What are some ways to heal your inner child as an adult? What are some ways to heal your inner child so you don't treat these children, your children, the way you do?
When you say inner child, are you talking about the adult,
The
our inner
adult.
child, my
Correct.
inner child?
Correct. What
Of
what
course,
can you do to,
I,
what are some
uh-huh.
ways to heal that inner child in you so you don't react to your children
You know,
in
I
a,
got so blessed of having friends in my life. I'm telling you, I'm not going to sit and tell you that I am the perfect parent, that I don't make mistakes, because if I say that, I will be lying. However, I got friends, especially my friend, my best friend, Cheryl St. John. Sometimes she'll tell me, Tanya, you need to step back from the situation and let me go ahead and handle this situation, because I may be yelling, or, you know, to the point that I'm so angry. So I have to step back. She'll tell me to step back. Even with you, Nicole, sometimes when I'm talking to you on the phone and then the kids are in the background, I'm saying, shut up. You like, hey, you know,
yeah.
so I've been so blessed of having someone to have my back and my front, because like I said, I'm not a perfect being by any means. So I need to be checked as well. So that way, when I see myself in the mirror, I know how to conduct myself. And two, I think a lot, like, oh, I could have did that differently.
Yeah.
So that's some ways, having very good friends. And
How many of y'all who have children on here have got up in the morning to get their kids ready for school and yelled at the kids by looking at their room or or they're taking too much time to get ready, and you're like, get ready, da, 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 and you start off with yelling?
yeah, I do.
I've done that. And just like Tanya said, I don't have any, I'm not gonna say anyone, but I do a lot of self-check because of how I raised up. My mom yelled a lot. Like,
Mhm.
she was a yeller, and my
Yeah.
dad was really quiet. But I did not like when my mom yelled, cussed. Like, she used to go off.
Yeah.
So I check myself. So if I'm yelling, I'm like, damn, I need to bring it down like 5 notches. But one thing I did learn from my mom is, don't get on your kids. This is what she told me. Do not get on your kids about moving too slow or your room is dirty right before they go to school, because
Mhm.
if you start
Yeah.
them off on a bad foot, that's how they're going to continue through that day. You have to start them off on a positive note.
Yeah.
And so that's how that's how I operate with the kids. So
You know,
if I
wait,
get a phone call,
you know how I learned that? I learned that from my own daughter, my oldest. But go ahead.
if I get a phone call in the morning and I know that the phone call is going to be stressful or have some type of anxiety attached to it, I don't even answer the phone, because I don't want to put that energy on the kids before they get on the bus in the middle on the day.
Yeah.
However, as soon as they come in that door and I'm like, did you do your homework? I don't have any homework. Okay, I'm gonna check. Carry your tail in that room and clean the room up. And you need to do the bathroom and whatever else. So that's when that part kicks in.
Okay,
But
because
yeah, I do check
at the end
myself.
of the day, the biggest thing is the morning. The
Yeah.
morning. Don't yell at your kids. Don't. And I'm
Right.
doing that myself because that starts them off with anxious, like, because they try to please mom. They try to please dad. Go ahead, Trav.
Mhm.
Y'all, I get what y'all saying. Like, and yes, but what's worse? Somebody yelling at you or you getting fired from your goddamn job for not doing your job and being fucked up. I mean, I get what y'all saying, but you are that goes to what we're talking about. You we're billing weak people. Weak people.
Wait, what do you mean as
You
far
get-
as the morning? The morning?
No, yeah. I mean, I understand. Yeah, don't yell at them. But if yelling the worst thing gonna happen to you in your life, you're gonna have a good goddamn life. That ain't shit.
Right. Yeah.
I'm
I'm with you.
sorry.
I agree
dog.
with that. I agree with
I'm
that. But then,
sorry.
but as they get older and it's continuous, it can be traumatizing for them because all you're
Man,
doing is
trauma is
yelling.
bullets flying on your head in Afghanistan.
No,
Somebody
not
yelling at you
always.
ain't
Not always,
shit.
Trav.
Not
Not
always,
always.
Travis.
Not always.
My
Listen,
mom was a yeller, and she
uh-huh.
didn't know how to communicate. Like, I don't know if she was always thinking that we ought to already know this, or if
Right.
she had said it too many times, or what the case may be. But my
Right.
mom was a fusser, and it drove me crazy. I learned in her household, and this is all shit aside, that do what she say do so you can get your ass up out of here. I promised myself I would be out of her house when I turned 18. I moved the week before I turned 18. I was in Virginia going to college. I meant that because it was like I can't breathe in here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I know now that that was a traumatic thing for me, only because I think I was expecting other people to yell, so I would hear what the hell they had to say, and when they would just be talking, I tuned them out. So now I make it a point to be like, nope, let's talk about it. I communicate. I don't talk about money. We don't talk about money by text at all. We're gonna talk about this verbally because we need to come to an understanding. Nothing's gonna get lost in the conversation because we're gonna hang up and we're both gonna know what we mean. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I'm an effective communicator because my mom was a fusser. She was very impatient, and everything needed to hurry up and happen, and it drove me crazy. And I still went ahead. I get stuff done now, but I'm like, hey, if you're gonna start that yelling, you need to let me know because I'm probably gonna cuss you out, and we're not gonna get along because you don't get to talk to me like that. Like now, you can't. You don't do that to me. It doesn't work for me.
Right. Go ahead, Trav.
I, I, because I'm an ex-athlete, so yelling is a part of everything. Like
See, I never took the sport. See the difference? You had a coach. I didn't.
and okay, but no, my daddy a Rockwaller. So I mean, again, I was 35.
But your daddy was present. Mine wasn't, Travis. Keep
I
going.
got you. I was 35 before I realized you weren't supposed to point at nobody when you talk to him. I mean, I just learned that a couple of years
Oh, wow.
I've been around men my whole life, so we talk to each other like this. Look, I'm talking to you. And do you understand what I'm saying? You.
Right.
You gonna be like, get your hand
I
up.
want you to know
hand out my-
exactly. Look, this finger. I want you to know exactly I'm talking to you. So that I mean, so
Right.
that somebody, a supervisor saying some slick shit to me is like, man, go ahead on. Like, stop, don't do that. Cause it don't mean nothing to me. But so I see people get upset. So if you yell at me in the morning, like I never
But
had
could your woman yell at
But
you in
that's
the
you
morning?
now. That's you now.
what you just say?
Can your woman yell at you in the morning?
A woman is like a flower; she should be seen and not heard.
See,
So
look at
therefore,
you. I
Oh
knew
my
it. I
God.
knew it was coming.
You know what,
Why
Travis?
you sounds
Travis,
like poor little
Travis-
Clarice. Poor little
Well, he over here
Clarice.
not worried about nobody yelling at him. I knew it was something in there.
Oh my goodness. No, for real, y'all. You know, I did my research. 8 ways to heal your inner child. Acknowledge. Acknowledge is number 1, that there is an issue. Number 2, listen. Number 3, write a letter. Write a letter. Number 4, meditate. Number 5, journal. Journal it and read it later. Number 6, revisit joy. Number 7, be open. And number 8, reach out. Heal your inner child.
Can I also add to also take accountability as
Yes.
well?
Yes.
Genuinely, because people will apologize and not mean anything by their apology. What I do with my girls is I told them, I said, okay, well, you guys go walk around this house and you find a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
And if they need to talk to me, they'll say, Mom, I need to have a conversation with you in our safe space. And I'm like, okay, because at that point, everything in the house shuts down. I don't care what's going on. That person, one of my daughters, needs a safe space. So we go to the safe space, and then they're able to talk freely. What's on their mind? What's bothering them? And then I'm asking them, okay, what's the solution? How do you want this to work? How do you see it working? And then we sit down and we come up with something collectively, because a lot of times as parents, and there's no right or wrong way to be a parent, and there's definitely no book to it. But what I learned growing up is I felt like I didn't have a voice. So with my kids, I'm like, hey, what's bothering you and how can we fix it? And if you fix it the way you want to fix it, how do you see it? And usually they don't have an answer for it because they're looking for me. But if we come and we collectively come up with something, I feel like that is so healthy, because now they know, one, they're safe.
Mm-hmm.
Two, they can trust me. And three, they're able to communicate with me. And then if I'm wrong, if Labria has brought me into the safe place, and she was like, I just want to tell you, I just don't like the way that you talked to me when I was cleaning the kitchen. And I'm like, well, what did I say? And then that's where the accountability comes, because maybe I didn't have to be so rough with her because I was going through something. And then I will apologize. Hey, maybe I shouldn't have came at you wrong. I do apologize. However, this is what happened, and this is why it went down. But you still need to go in there and clean the kitchen, because the longer you're in here talking to me, you could be getting the kitchen done. But I do have a safe space for the kids, and they definitely utilize it. That's all.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So we have this thing in school that like probably been like the most effective tool for me ever, right? Because it really helps me figure stuff out. So I'm in theater school, and we have this sheet called the GOAT sheet. So it's GOTE, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the G is for goal, which is what you want. O is for other or obstacle, is who you want it from, for, or with. The T is for tactic, is how you plan to go about getting it. And the E is for expectation, which is the reward itself. So I started applying that to a whole bunch of stuff in my life, and shit started falling into place and making a whole lot more sense. I ain't saying you got to do it. I'm saying try it, see if it works, because it works for me.
I like that. That. I definitely like that. Trav, what were you
And that's for character development, because I'm in theater school, but that's for character development. But we have to ask all of these questions when we were working on our characters. And I think that's been probably the most effective tool that I've gotten in ages.
I like that. I like that. I'm gonna write that down. Go ahead, Trav.
When you just went on the list of things,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess because like I want to teach them so much. So for me, the biggest thing is, and I'm gonna say this with just in my adult, I'm actively, I want to listen, and I don't want to hear the wrong thing. I don't want to hear what I'm thinking. I don't hear what I think you're saying. I want to know what you're saying.
Right.
And that's just something I've been doing on a regular basis. Like, so because I might hear something that I deem offensive, and you ain't even trying to be offensive. You trying to set the record straight. Tell me what it is. So I'm actively turning the bullshit hearing off and trying to really hear what you're saying. And with my daughters, that's the big thing. Like, even if I think it's some bullshit they getting ready to say, I'm trying to do better with listening.
That's a good one, because
I'm trying my best because like they know how I am. Don't bring me no bullshit. But when they do, I'm like, okay, they got the nerve up to say it. And I don't want them to feel like I'm some wild animal that they can't talk to. So all right, cool. I'm gonna listen. And I'm like, damn, this is some, and I ain't gonna lie to you, even if they ever see this, I'm saying this is some dumb shit they saying to me, but I'm gonna listen.
And it's all about how they interpret. It's all about how you interpret what they're saying to communicate that. So if you listen to them and then you say what you say, make sure y'all interpret it the way each other wants each other to listen, to understand it. Interpretation is a big thing because a lot of times kids will interpret something as defensive, whereas you're not trying to communicate with them on being defensive. You're trying to communicate with them for them to understand, but they can't understand on the advanced mechanism that So you got to break it down to them.
We gotta have a lot of patience when we do it. My grandmother used to tell me, Nita, before you go, make sure you pack your patience. And for the longest, I didn't understand what she was talking about. And I was like, pack what? Now that I'm older, I'm like, pack your patience. It makes so much more sense now.
Like that.
Because things click later in life. So now, like when I'm talking to the girls and they are bringing me some BS that I don't want to hear because it's corny. But I think to myself, okay, Lenita, just listen with an open mind and be patient. Let them get it all out, even though it's a waste, but it's not a waste for them because
Right.
we're on two different maturity levels. So
The interpretation. That's what I'm
It
saying.
is.
Make
It's
sure.
it when you are a results driven person, and that's my thing. Like I want the win. So
Mhm.
going through the process to get the win, I don't look at that. I have one desire, that is to achieve and to win. And when you are a results driven person, it is hard to stop and listen to anybody because you're saying, hey, I'm going that way. You're stopping me from, I'm going that way. You're stopping me. I'm going that way. So that is the way I am, like financially with my bills, actions, things that I want to do. So when the girls, I, and I got it, I'm working with it, get better. Stop and listen what they got to say. Take the time, call the time out in the game. Okay, I'm gonna listen. And that's, like, and that might be similar to what Nita said about a safe place or just
Mhm.
having that opportunity to be able to speak like that. Because I'm, what I mean, I know that I know I'm a lot to deal with, especially for my daughters because I want the best for them.
Right.
So, and I always say this, and I wish more parents would say this, and my dad taught me this when I was a little boy. Bring it to me when it's down here small. When it gets big, other people get involved. Bring it to me at its ground level. I don't care what it is. Like I've said this to my oldest daughter, you know what I mean? Because I'm a realistic person. Like I ain't stupid. If
Mhm.
you get pregnant, come tell me first. Let me help you
Right.
make a decision, a proper decision. Don't hide 3 months and then you can't zip your jeans up and you talking to me. Don't do that. Come holler at me. Let me help you. I
Yeah.
might not like it, but I can't never get rid of you. You my daughter. I got you. And if I had a son, come holler at me, bro. I got you. But I mean, a lot of times, you know, we get so caught up in who we are and we can't stop and say that stuff. So that's part of the problem too.
I agree. I like how you think on that. That's dope.
Yeah.
That's dope.
so if we have a broken child, right? No, we're trying to raise a strong child
Huh.
to avoid them being a strong child to avoid them being a broken adult. With everyone here, I'm gonna ask, like, if we have children and you're raising them with all these, we're instilling the morals, the values, and you're trying to raise this strong child, strong-willed, opinionated, and everything, but they don't want anything to do with their other parent. And then and just like Tootie said, or I can't remember who said it, when they were like almost forced to go see the other parent. Are we helping that child at that point by forcing them to go see another parent that they don't feel comfortable around or they're scared of? Or are
Honestly,
we helping them more by just keeping them in their safe space? Like, like where's the boundary in that?
I've experienced, and that was me talking when I said don't when I used to force Ronell
Okay.
to go over there, and Ron was the one to come to me and said, "Let's not force him. Wait till he's ready." And I was like, hold on, we went half on him. Like we
I need
went
to
like
break.
you
Because
mentioned
for you, it was
break
about your
too.
me time, huh?
Yeah, like I was like, what the hell? But I understood it later. I understood it later, and it benefited my son by doing it that way. So
Yeah.
I actually kept him home. And I mean, I don't go out, I don't do a lot. I'm a homebody, but it was just, I like to soak. I like to have a minute for me. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But I get why he said what he said. And I get now today why we are in a great situation now. You know what I mean? Because we communicate and we understand each other. And we had a lot of issues, turmoil going on from outside influences. Them outside influences, it was to a point where it was no, me and you got to do this. Me and you got to talk to each other to raise our son. And that is one thing that I loved about Greg, because Greg was a one back then that kept pushing it. You guys communicate, leave the outsiders out, just you and him talk. And when I tried to do that, it wasn't happening because it was, other people involved. And then as time went by, I think when we had a long conversation, it was understood. And then, but I learned from him in not forcing my child to go over there.
Nick, not to cut you off at all, but
Mhm,
you said Greg was telling you let y'all get the other people out and y'all handle it
mhm,
between you all. Yeah,
mhm.
that's and like I said, when I hear anything like that, that's grown man business.
Mm,
That's grown man business for him
Yeah.
to say, "Yo, you and your son's father, y'all work it out." That's grown
mhm.
business. That's
Yes.
because
That's how
because
that's how he is. He
because 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 there's so many fuck niggas, and I
yeah,
say that openly. So many fuck niggas that will say things like, "Fuck him, don't worry about that." He'll tell a woman because of his selfish wants, "Oh, I want this woman for myself," or he feels like that. It's so many men like that. Well, they will aid destroying a relationship or making it more difficult for that father to be around,
yeah.
which again goes back to what we said. You're breaking a child down, and you never have any intent on doing any of those things that the father was going to do
Mhm.
in that person's life, because that's not your job anyway. Your job is to be supportive, but he's got to be his dad.
And
So
and that's how he is. He's never been involved in any of the issues in the
that's
last
real.
4
That's
years.
real.
Like he
I
always
salute.
said, keep it between us, me and the father. And I'm a bonus parent. I'm a bonus, you know what I
I,
mean?
I salute him for that, because I'm
Thank
telling
you.
you, if you're a man, and this is for anybody watching our podcast, and you're a man, if
Yeah.
you're with a woman and you see her dogging out the father, and all that dude wants to do is be a father, and you sit there, I will say this directly. You can look in my eyes. You can feel how you want to feel about it. You are you might as well start to sit down when you pee, because you're a woman.
Not even a woman, you just a bitch.
Bitch, you're a fuck nigga. I want you to know that. If you allow that to go on and you sit there and you go to sleep and she belittles this dude and he talks sideways, and you got a guy and all he's saying is, "I want my kid, I want my kid, I want my kid," and you sit there and you go along with it, you are a first class fuck nigga. Because if I were in that situation, back to building that strong child, I would tell her, if you do not allow that man to be with his kids, I'm out of here. I wouldn't go along with it, not for one day.
Right. Right.
And y'all, we going overtime, so I'm not gonna get off here, but we're gonna stop this. In closing, I want to say, regardless of your past, it's up to you to try to learn from the mistakes you witnessed and try to do better and be better. It's up to you to put yourself back together again so that you can be present for yourself and your kids in the way that they need you. Always remember that. Until next time, y'all, subscribe to Lust. Let us speak truth. Real folks, family, and we love y'all. Until next time. Holla.